Five.
All right, cool.
It's your show and I'm a guest.
Oh, okay, my fault. All right. Well, greeting, Baba Wekesa.
Greetings,
Uh,
brother.
Thanks for setting up this call. Taking time out your day. I wanted to see if you could start by maybe introducing yourself, letting the community know a little bit about yourself.
Oh, excellent. Well, my name is Wekesa Madzimoyo. I am the co-director, along with my wife, Afiya, of AYA Educational Institute. And IA Education Institute has existed in this form since 1998. And we do a number of things. We are about the business of healing oppression's wounds, and we've created a whole series of tools and techniques to help us do that. And that's the work we do primarily for adults, and that's applied to many different areas. And then we also work with middle school and high school students. And then we consult with different organizations and businesses. But that's the kind of work that I do. Who I am is I'm a proud African man. I'm a grandfather. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather of six. And one of the reasons that I do this work and continue to do this work is because I'm a proud grandfather of six. And I intend to work, do everything in my power to make this a better world. And for me, that means challenging oppression, pushing the ceiling higher, making it a better place for my grandchildren and our people. Um, my wife and I have been married for 28 years and been together longer than that. And we're still in love and in lust, and it's wonderful.
Mhm.
So I think we can start there.
Okay, cool. Good. Thanks for sharing. I know you mentioned about healing our historical wounds or like our
Mhm.
oppressed wounds. Can you
Right.
go a little bit deeper into to what you mean by that?
Sure. The I think many people are aware that oppression historically has wounded us, and physical brutality alone is psychologically wounding. The things that we endured, and not just endured during captivity, have continued to endure Jim Crow and continue 16 bullets, hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe, I'm just going to get Skittles, whatever. That kind of brutality has existed, and those wounds from it many times get embedded in our family's communication and our family lore and our family behavior. That is, we have to adapt to oppression, and those adaptations are like bends in our walk, and it influences our relationships with each other, whether those are relationships in terms of intimate relationships, family building relationships, or business relationships, organizational relationships. And and part of what we've done is not only look at how present day oppression continues to shape and constrict and contort our relationships with each other. But how does that I got from my grandmother, who loved me, my grandfather who loved me, how did I also get some of that woundedness passed on to them, sometimes passed on as love, and such
Mm.
that it influences my relationships, business relationships, or organizational relationships, or intimate relationships, or relationships with my sibling and my children. And in those ways, the oppressor is still controlling. If I heal those, or as we heal those woundedness, that contortion, that constriction, then in fact, we become the writers of our story and our relationship.
Hmm. Well, that's deep. Yeah, good. Thanks. Um, I like how you mentioned adapt. You know how we had to adapt. So, are you saying basically that like due to having to adapt from oppression, that messed up the chemistry or how we interacted amongst each other, which is still being perpetuated today?
Let me give you an example
Okay.
with my mother and my father. All right, our different families have had to adapt to oppression in different ways based on the particular brutality, the particular combination, whatever. My mother's side, which was the Tucker name, that's the captors, group of captors names they took. But they were short, and their adaptation to oppression was to say, if you come up here in your clan sheet on this porch, one of y'all gonna get left up here. You know, there was a saying, I'm a little piece of leather, but I'm well put together, let's go. So they were the fighting crew, okay? They're the people who are gonna say, nah, I ain't gonna be none of that. I'm not gonna be the last one die. And that was their adaptation in order for them to survive. My father's family line was to stay under the radar screen. They weren't punks, but they weren't going to be at the front of the march. They weren't going to be carrying the signs. Now, if you got hurt in the march, they'd be there and move heaven and earth to get you and get you to the hospital, and nobody better try to stop them. But they're not going to be at the front line. They're going to stay under the radar screen. So, okay, so now then imagine they have two children, my mother and my father. They grow up and they get married. And they're now at a restaurant, and it's beginning to be kind of integration, sort of. And they go to this fish restaurant, and the white waitress is not treating my mother and them the way my mother believes she should. She's waiting on people who came after them. She's kind of callous with the food. What does my mother want to do in that scenario?
Your mother wants to fight or complain or say something about it.
That's right. You got that right. My mom wants to say, nah, wait a minute, ain't gonna be none of this. We stopping this right here. Boom. What does my father want to do?
He wants to handle it probably more. I want to say discreetly, but he's gonna handle it more in a different way.
Yeah, mainly he'll say if it's not so bad, you know, she didn't mean it, or I know it's whatever, but you know, it's progress, and it'll be okay, and basically smooth over it. So now they got this duel stimulated by their family's adaptation to oppression that has come down to them, that neither one of them actually created. They just inherited it, okay, as a way to survive. So my mother is thinking, man, you know, if you don't stand up, people just gonna keep messing over you and just keep messing over you, and you're gonna die. And my father is thinking, and this is out, usually it's way back. This is not like at the front, okay? She gonna get us all killed. You know, always going off at the handle, so on and so on. Now, so what's the situation then? So if my mother goes off, my father's like, so let's say my mother goes off and makes a scene and said, bump you, we're out of here. Now, what's the conversation in the car? I'm the child in the back seat. What's the conversation?
Why you do that?
Why you do that? Blah, blah, blah. You know, you're just like your dad. Your mama always get raw flying off at the handle. Blah, 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 da, 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 da. Or let's play it the other way. Let's say my mother capitulates and says, okay, you know, we'll sit here and take it, and we'll do it your way. Now they're in the car. and now she's running, right? We always gonna be messed up. You know, you don't stand up for yourself. Now this conflict that's been stimulated was just stimulated by a current act of racism that the people now call microaggressions, which pisses me off. But anyway, current act of racism and their various adaptations that they inherited. Now, had they known that these were adaptations, they could have used them to their advantage. You see, my father, his particular adaptation told him to be very sensitive to when you're maybe outnumbered or when you need to be chill and whatever. So she could have said, to my father, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing, that we need to be quiet about this? And he might have said, well, have you taken a look around or where we are? Okay. Or he may have had awakened to the fact that, you know, we really need to do something about it. Or he could have said, so, you know, you're really upset about this, you know, why? And there may be some things that my mother saw that he wasn't attending to. You see, our adaptation from oppression is really a signal for an extra level of sensitivity that we can use to help each other, and or can use the other person for their particular guidance. Okay, so if I'm oversensitive to something or whatever, I might lean on you. okay, to say, okay, sure, I hear you. But see, so in this case, they wouldn't have been arguing with each other. All right, they wouldn't have been fighting, and then you get the words in the car, "You just like this, you just like that, you always do this," and by not as fussing with each other and throwing hurtful words with each other,
Right.
stimulated by their family's adaptation to oppression. Okay?
Mm.
And we often, when we're choosing relationships like partners, we often don't even consider this. We, you know, and what does it matter? Well, let's say a particular family's adaptation to oppression was to basically stay under the radar screen, and another one, or to kind of get in where you fit in, do the best you can, and slowly. And another one is more rebellious. So they have children, and now they're going to go. What school are they going to go to? Well, you can't have all the conversations before you get married, or you never get married. Okay. So now
Right.
issues come up, about how we're going to fight this oppression. One of the reasons that Afiya and I have been together for 28 years, married, and longer than that together, is because part of what I was looking for, I learned my lessons a little before her. and what I liked is that she admired her rebellious dad. Now everybody in the family loved him, but she admired his rebelliousness. Okay, and she understood his hurt underneath that, and his righteous anger, and she could hold both of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, cool. Because I know of some of my I've taken my mother's line as a more primary adaptation strategy. Now, incidentally, though, in my own growing, I had to pull on my father's, because while my mother's group taught me to rebel and challenge oppression, and I can do that and have done that. When I got ready to build trust among our people, when I wanted to start building a school or building something, I realized that people trusted me to fight oppressors. If I hadn't gained their trust, that I would take care of them.
Mm.
Okay.
That's deep.
So what I'm just giving you is some, and this is part of what's different about our work. We're not just talking theory, okay,
Right.
or cliches. All right. We're talking experiences that we've had and we've done, both me and my wife and many others who've been through this process, that we can help bring to bear. Because like at Olympic, I had to make use of both of those forms of adaptation. See, typically we would say that my mother's was the best one. No, it was just a form of adaptation. All right. Whenever she was outnumbered, she could choose to fight and die, or it might be more advantageous for her to choose to live, retreat, and be able to pass some things on to her children. You see what I'm saying? So my father's
Right.
adaptation strategy was useful, not all the time, but sometimes. Just like hers is not the right one all the time. And look, what I'm saying is what they could have done if they'd known it, I got the opportunity to do, because I got both of those adaptation strategies from different
Sure.
ones of them.
Sure.
See what I'm saying?
Almost
So
like tools in a toolbox.
absolutely, Susan.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine instead of looking at back on our family line and our family's adaptations, and instead of just being ashamed of it or just simply proud of it, let's take a look at their responses as adaptations and what we can learn from it and how it can be useful in our various toolboxes. And we pull it
Mm-hmm.
together. And
Sure.
rarely do we look at our history of oppression in that way. You know,
Mm-hmm. Good, thanks. So that sounds like a good segue to. I know you're coming up here in next weekend, right? For
yeah, next weekend.
Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the plan for why you're up here for Juneteenth weekend.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked, and I'm so glad to be coming to that area. Hopefully, people from Dayton. I know some people from Lexington are coming, and certainly the greater Cincinnati area. We're coming because on Friday night we're having a program to honor local heroes and sheroes and honor Araminta. And this is important because it's always important for us to honor those people who've been doing the work, that is warrior, healer, builder work in our community, who've been doing it. And also it's so important, we're on a national movement for us to control the narrative most of us know by now that Araminta is slated to go on the $20 bill on one side, and her enemy, Andrew Jackson, on the other side. And it doesn't matter whether you think it's a good thing, or you're irritated by it, or you are insulted by it. My point when I said it doesn't matter is either of your positions, everyone knows that we'll need to control the story, the narrative, what you mean. All right. And so in order to do that, we have to put the story, her story that we want the image to evoke, in our community lore and in our community minds. And so we're on a mission to do that. But we do that in a particular way so that it introduces people to our warrior, healer, builder training that we're going to do on Saturday. So we use her life because the story we want to tell is her warrior story, her builder story, and her healing story. Araminta was a stone warrior. They'll make her an abolitionist, okay? Which is okay, but it's not the same thing as a warrior with the kind of military prowess that she had. And that's going to be minimized in their story. I don't care. We're not going to minimize it in ours. So we talk about that warrior part of her, and talk about how, and on Saturday from 1 to 5, we help to look at that, developing that warrior part of us in the here and now. Then we go to the builder part of Araminta. In order to do the things that she did, it took organization. It took trust building. And to do the things that we have to do in our community, we need each other. And we got to know how to build trust when distrust is induced. I want to say that because many people think it's just a matter, let's read the right book. If we all read the right book, or if we all pray the same way, or if we all eat the same way. All of those things are important. I'm not trying to minimize them. But clearly, distrust among us is induced by our oppressor. How, again, what are the skills? What are the steps? What do we need to do to knit trust when distrust is actively induced? Now, Araminta had to do the same thing. She had to build trust, okay? It wasn't automatic. And when you learn about the different things she did, you'll learn the level of trust across different class lines, across different regions of the country, and all kinds of situations. She was a master builder, okay? And the last thing we'll talk about with her is her as a healer, starting with how she healed herself, okay? Of the psychic wounds of oppression. Because if she doesn't heal herself, then we don't get the warrior Araminta and the builder Araminta. And similarly, if we don't heal ourselves of those wounds, to use a term from Aikwe Amar, you may be familiar with 2000 Seasons, you may be familiar with The Beautiful Ones. Yeah. Well, this one comes from the healers. And he has a line in there where the character Araba Jeshua is having to heal herself. And the first step in her series of healing herself is to purge the falsehoods that come out of the abused self. Those are his words. Purging herself of the false ideas that have been implanted in her head based on abuse. Well, Araminta had those kind of ideas implanted as well. And she literally documents and talks about her healing process. And it sets a model for us. So when our people see that 20, I want what to be, when my children touch it, I want to be reminded of the healing that Araminta did and the healing that we need to do. I want them to be reminded of the building that she did and the trust building, so that we know how to do that and are inspired to do that. I want them to be, when they touch that $20 bill or see it, I want them to think about the warrior Araminta who wasn't satisfied with her being free, who had a sense that if we weren't all free, then she wasn't. Those are the kinds of things. So we introduced that on Friday night. It's a free session. It's a community session. Please come. It's from 6:30 to 9. And then for those people who want to be certified to tell that story, we're looking for 200 people around the country who are willing to be certified to tell that story that they will have heard on Friday night. And we introduce them to that process 9 o'clock in the morning in the amphitheater. Okay. And that's just for those who want to do that. Now, from 10 to 12, we introduce people to Aya, the school, that is the middle school and high school and the weekend academy. So people who are homeschooling, or people who maybe even sending their children to other schools, but they know they need to supplement it. They know they need to give them the African-centered grounding then they come and it's a free session to learn about our Education Institute, to learn about our way and our thoughts and our philosophies and our experiences and how we can support parents doing that. Then from 1 to 5, this is a 4-hour session where we call it a taste of WHB, a taste of Warriors, Healers, and Builders, because our normal program is all weekend. It's 30 hours, okay? It's Friday night. This is a lot of time. And here, though, many people in the Cincinnati area don't know this work. We've been doing this work for years in Atlanta. We've been doing it in Chicago. We've been doing it in Washington, D.C. for over 10, 12 years. And so we want to begin to have people to have a taste of it for only 4 hours and on Saturday from 1 to 5. And then from 7 to 9, we're going to have a brothers only and sisters only set where we talk about some of the things that we mentioned earlier. So how does this woundedness impact us in building families? You know, how does it impact, you know, how as we're going to raise our children in an oppressed situation? How do we handle it when the relationship didn't work out? And how do we still raise families together? How do we make them work out? How do we learn the lessons from that so we go forward? What are the things that the brothers need to do? What are the things that the sisters need to do? And this is where Mama Afiya and we and the brothers and sisters will be in separate spaces, okay? And they will also, at the end, however, come together and make some statements and questions to each other, some statements. But it's a beautiful session. And what we're excited about is many times Juneteenth is celebrated with parades, and it ought to be. It's a good thing, you know, and with art and culture. And that's good. We also like to add to the celebration us healing ourselves of the wounds of oppression, you know, so that we can step a little higher. You know, us enjoying the story of an Araminta so that we can celebrate in that way, and doing so, flip the script, be proactive in this thing. So that's what we're coming. We're excited about it, and we're glad that you're gonna have us there.
Okay, so you kind of answered my next question, but so with everything that's going on Juneteenth weekend, why should someone, you know, take time to go to go hear you speak either Friday or Saturday?
Well, I'm glad you know asked it again, so I could expound on it a little bit. To me, what makes celebration really a celebration and not an escapist holiday, you know, we're at risk here to turn anything into a consumer, you know, escapist holiday. So, for example, you know, King's birthday, you know, is a day to shop, as opposed to a day to be on and challenging oppression in his own way if you're inspired by doing, you know, from his way. And so Juneteenth is a time that we would celebrate the end of our captivity. And what better way to celebrate it than by getting stronger in it, okay? Because if we're going to really be free and our community is going to be healed, if we're going to get to the sovereignty that we hope to get to, we're going to have to do 3 things. And we're going to have to do them like together. We're going to have to challenge oppression, people, policies, and practices. That's the warrior part. You can choose your weapons. You're somebody who wants to write, that may be your weapon. You know, if you want to use more the stringent ways to fight, do that as well. But we got to strengthen that in our community. And while we fight, we also have to heal, because as we've been talking about, you know, my woundedness has been passed down my family line, as well as I'm rewounded by 16 bullets and hands up, don't shoot, and I can't breathe. And while we fight and while we heal, we also have to build. So to me, as we're getting better at that, as we come and spend this time, what better way to celebrate than by getting myself better able to handle what we need to handle now, so that on Sunday I can party knowing that the things that I've learned can really help my relationship with my daughter or my son, where I've really had blocks, knowing that I've learned some skills that'll help me heal some wounds down my family line. That I actually have some ways that I can challenge people, policies, and practices that I hadn't thought about, or got support that I didn't know I had. So on Sunday, we can really, really celebrate because we have used the time not as a way to escape the reality of the oppression that we have, but to better prepare us to fight it, to heal from it, and to build in spite of it.
Good, thanks. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. Is there anything that well, I guess one more question. 'Cause I know it's been brought up. So why the $45?
Glad you asked that too. Um, because we want to be able to come back and we want to keep coming. And that is part of what we have to do is sustain our work. Okay. And when I say we, I mean as a people. Okay. In order for us to sustain it, if all of our work is granted by some grants from some other folks, then they actually control the purse strings. When the grant runs out, then it stops. Well, our Education Institute is what we do full time. It's why our work is deep and why our work is timely and why our work is appropriate and good, because we continue to work it and refine it, and we do it full time. And in order to continue to do it, then we have to get support from our community. And so we know that the full weekend price is like $4.99. So this is a fraction of that for $45. And I'll tell you one thing, here's what we say. If anybody comes and they pay $45 and they're not completely satisfied, they can have it back. It's just strong as that, brother. So it's the $45 is a way to sustain the work. And I will say for those people who want to attend and for whom the $45 is a challenge, we have a way to work that out in installments. We certainly would love for people to pay it if they can straight up without installments. But if you need installments, come on, we'll work it out.
Cool. Good. Thanks. Is there anything that else you want to mention or a question that
Yeah, I got a
you hope I
question for you.
answered?
I got a question for you. Okay.
Okay.
Why do you think this is a good thing? Do you think that this WHB Juneteenth weekend in Cincinnati is good for people in the area and our people in the area? And why do you think it's a good thing?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing because we have, different African villages developing, between Cincinnati, Dayton, and Columbus, like developing of elders councils and things like that. And when I first was introduced to the warrior healer builder concept, the thing that struck me, like that's kind of the culture that needs to be developed within the elders councils or the African villages, however they call it, to be able to help sustain and build and go deeper into the work, and the thing that really stuck out to me was the notion that sometimes the warriors fight inside the village instead of saving that for the people policies and
That's right.
procedures. So
That's right.
and so that really struck me, and the need to have everybody to be able to move as a warrior healer and builder, even if some have a more of an affinity to one more than the other. So I think introducing these concepts is real important. And I mean, for me personally, while I definitely am a warrior as far as pointing out oppression and doing community research, I'm also deeply invested in healing our wounds, and healing wounds, period, actually, and how to, build the trust to make a dynamic community, a vibrant community, and to build upon the strength and the assets of the community that we can't build upon because we're so disjointed and from lack of trust, which doesn't enable cooperation, collaboration, coordinated activity, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, it's like, how are we going to heal ourselves to move forward and to, transform our communities into the vision that we want to see.
Boom, brother. You said it. That's why I do it. I will just say that the part of That I just want to emphasize, because I didn't say it earlier and you said it, and I just want to bring it. Very often, when because of oppression, instead of challenging out, we turn that in. We turn it on ourselves, and it ends up being prostate cancer. Okay, we turn it on each other, and it ends up being all kind of conflict, backbiting, hurdles that we can't get over. And instead of becoming a coordinated, a group of different cells, okay, we end up being conflicting, and I don't talk to him, and they don't talk to me, and we don't trust them. We don't have to worry about the oppressor. Don't have to worry about us building anything. Okay, no one of us, one group, one person, one organization has the answers, and even if they has the answers, can implement them. Okay, it's going to take a coordinated strategy, and to do that, we have to know how do we trust ourselves to develop it, and then how do we across different various silos. Okay, geography, spirituality, particular professions, proclivities, styles, cultures. How do we build that? When distrust is induced, okay, it's a skill set, so I will say one of the things that I'll talk about when we'll talk about is our isusu, because because our thing is not just theoretical. I mean, for us, if it sounds good, then we're like, let's put it to practice. This is where we test. It's like anything else. Like, okay, does it really work? All right, it sounds good, but no, and then we refine it. And so we put together a home buying collective here in Atlanta, where 10 families came together, putting in $500 a month, and these families were scraping for that, so that we would actually be able to buy homes free and clear. But that was the vision and the idea and the money part. But in order to participate, folks had to go through our whole weekend retreat. And then we met once a month where we did some more, a couple of 2-3 hour bases, as well as handle the business. And then every 3 months, we had a 1-day refresher, so that the wounds that we brought to each other based on money. And many of us have all kind of fears dealing with us and money. Okay. Some of them well-founded, some of them not. It doesn't matter whether they are or not. We have to handle them with each other. And if we can have a safe place for me to talk about my fear of dealing with Black people with money, some that I caught from my grandmother, some that I taught. The upshot is, my brother, everybody, we finished the cycles. People bought homes or other things. Everybody finished with a positive, successful outcome, and nobody is backbiting, split, not speaking. The trust that we have gained is tighter. Any of us can call on the other of us, and we have a level of credibility and trust that we built. And see, part of what Amos Wilson teaches in Blueprint for Black Power is that money follows trust. And many times when we want to do economic development, we'll do what the multi-level marketers do. We'll put the vision out there. And well, there are hundreds of, and it's 100 of us, put in $10 a month, and we can take that. It'll be blah, and we can. And it's true. It's wonderful. We don't deal with the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is we don't trust us with money. So how do we build that trust? So that as we are achieving the vision, we also are achieving trust. So that then the next time when people want to do something, we already start with a basis of trust. You see, before it was based on a particular geography and based on we lived together in a different agrarian, situation, and I knew your grandmother, you knew mine, and blah blah. And so we don't have those situations very much anymore. So we have to be intent at building trust. And so the beautiful thing is to apply these to that has created a successful financial process, okay, where people now have homes they own free and clear. So we flipped the script right in the middle of this mortgage fraud thing. We flipped it so that our families, out of that, some developed businesses, some bought land, some bought houses, some live in those houses, okay, free and clear. And on top of that, we're stronger together. That's what I want to expose Cincinnati to, and Dayton and Kentucky and Columbus, and that's why I'm coming.
Cool.
All right, my
Good,
brother.
thanks, Baba.
All right, thank you
All
for
right.
having me. Thank you for all your work to help make it happen. I really appreciate that, and everybody else who's been on the team to make it happen. Because without you, without them, it would be anything. Looking forward to it.
Sure. Yeah, you too. You too.
All right.
All right, take care, Baba. All right.